Cormier is already working on solidifying winning a second title fight so he can keep the belt. That's a little known fact. You have to win 2 if you want to keep a copy of the belt, which means it's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is way easier from outside the cage. With me, probably to gloat about his DC prediction, Raf Esparza. Raf, how are you doing this evening?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I didn't necessarily say DC was going to win. I just wanted to make sure that both you and Joe Gilpin from last week, who was playing over under Kevin, who's on the line. Joe, say hello.
Hey, what's going on?
That you guys were just seamlessly already. Just directions and no problem whatsoever. No, I hear it. I hear you guys. I'm listening.
That's fine, Kevin. What Kevin is alluding to, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, is that the other participant in Over Under, Kevin, a.k.a. Joe here, is a better co-host than he is. That is what he is fuming about. And let's be real. Ooh, it's not looking good for Kev. But the thing about it is...
I'm, to be fair, I'm better at a lot of things, not just co-hosting.
That is fair. That is fair. You are better looking and also smarter and more articulate, and I think you read at a higher grade level than Kevin, but that's not the point. The point is...
The only one that upset me there was that you called him better looking. Everything else, fair game, but the better looking thing hurt, Raf, and I think you know that.
Well, I know, but, I got to be real. What I'm saying is both of you guys were discounting DC in this fight to the point where I had to step in and say, guys, Daniel Cormier is going to be able to withstand some punches. I also said that his best articulated offense in this was to get Anthony Johnson up against the cage. And lo and behold, that strategy was pretty good.
Let me ask Joe a question, because Joe and I both took Anthony Rumble Johnson. Joe, did you think Anthony Johnson had been preparing cardiovascular-wise for the fight, or did you know that he had been on vacation in some Golden Corral buffet resort? Were you aware? What was your read of that?
Anthony started huffing and puffing on the way to the cage. That's when I started having a sinking suspicion that tonight might not be the night.
I got nervous then, too. When he stopped, took a water break, they had to give him some oxygen after the first, 600 feet he traveled. But,
Can we also say that when your corner has to say to you, hey, buddy, come on. There's only 3 more rounds. Come on, buddy.
They're exact. Dude, there are 3 more. He had more tone. He had more, ex-girlfriend tone. We have 2 more weddings to get to. That's how their corner sounded. Just like, Anthony, I know you are done, but this fight is not over. It literally just started. We're 1 round in. There's so much fight left. I could not believe how fast he gassed. My question to both Raf, you and Joe, what the fuck is going on with his cardio?
I think seriously what happened is basically the first punch he threw, Daniel Cormier fell down like he slipped on a banana peel, and I think he just let the moment get to him. I think he was already counting his money. I think he already had, his belt polish all picked out, and he freaked out, swarmed him in for the finish, and from there, he completely blew his wad.
That's the official fight analysis. Raf, most shocking, lightweight. That was disappointing. I'm willing to, at least Joe's trying to come up with a rationale, because I'm just ready to be like, oh, fuck yourself. That was pathetic.
From Anthony Johnson?
I thought so, yeah. He couldn't make it 2 rounds. He literally could not fight 2 rounds in the UFC light heavyweight division.
And he's the guy who's been preparing for this fight. He's the guy who knew exactly what day he was fighting for months. He thought he was fighting John Jones. Daniel Cormier was supposed to be the guy that's coming in short notice, a little heavier, and Rumble Johnson literally looked like he wanted to give up after 7 minutes.
Here's the thing for both of you, and you still are a little defiant on this. Both of you guys are still defiant on Daniel Cormier's wrestling ability, because that's what wore him down so bad. Cormier was able to make him carry his weight. So it's not like Anthony Johnson was known for his cardio forever. That's fine. But if you have somebody who's so much more advanced than you at one particular thing, it showed. And Johnson's best moments, and this is where maybe Kevin and I differ. Johnson's best moments are when he was able to keep it standing because there were some ugly kicks. There were some.
Can we stop saying best moments? Like, he had 3 good moments, tops. Like, and they all were in the first minute of the first round.
Kevin, I'm going to have to air some laundry on the podcast that I feel will maybe even things out.
Is this about my drinking habits? What are you talking about?
No, although we're going to have a talk about that later on with some loved ones. Tell me the story of when you rolled at Systems Training Center. And were the ability to vomit part of that routine?
Yeah, okay, what he's referring to, Joe, and listeners who aren't caught up, we went rolling. This was our second night while I was in LA while we were training. I had been out there since Monday. This was Thursday night. We went and trained at Systems Training Center where they have a whole, basically like a garage of MMA fighters. Like they just produce Swedish and American MMA fighters on a pretty consistent level. We rolled for 6 straight rounds after a pretty good warm-up where you were on your head most of the time because that's the only way they warm up in LA. I don't know if you know that, Gio, but start your cartwheels and, walking on your hands for any time you go to LA. It's the only way they warm up. Yeah, right? Number 2, yeah, I did vomit after 6 pretty serious rounds.
But Kevin, let's take a moment.
No,
how long did you have to prepare for that, though, Kevin?
For the Systems Training Center? I don't know. 4 days.
How long did you know that you were going to be going to train there? For months, I thought, right?
Oh, about a month. Let's not pretend months.
It's a couple months. Yeah, you knew you were coming, and then you knew you were going to come to train at Systems Training Center. So,
well, first of all, I made it more rounds than Anthony Rumble Johnson, if that's what we're talking about.
To be fair, how many UFC World Championships were you fighting for at the time, Kevin? And how much money were you standing to make?
Oh, it actually cost us about $20 to get out there via the rental car. But Hawthorne,
well, I'm going to put Kevin.
Can I go pick that up on pay-per-view anywhere?
No, sadly, it wasn't available. I'm
going to go ahead and
the sparring session.
Kevin obviously needed some help from Joe, so I'm going to redirect my target and focus back to Joe now. Joseph, here's the thing. Joseph Grant is what I think your middle name is right now. I feel like you're projecting a little bit too much for Kevin. I mean, DC in his post presser was saying that part of his strategy was to make Anthony Johnson carry his weight. Afterwards, he said that Johnson hit him with such power that he felt his face was breaking from there. So obviously he was playing his game. Anthony's best chance was to make it a stand-up match. And I think that's what was going to be so creative about John Jones. Now, John Jones is so much more elusive with the way he strikes.
I was just going to ask you that.
It's a little bit different. But if this DC had played this game against John Jones, we may have had an and new months ago.
Oh, shut up.
I'm just
up. He almost got knocked out.
That's a big leap to make.
Thank you.
It is,
Go
but
ahead,
I'm just
Joe.
saying is that I'm not saying he would have won. I'm saying that he had the ability he imposed what it was, his game plan, and what he's good at. And he didn't do that as much. Even he admitted he got caught up in John Jones's game in standing up and trying to do that. And when you have somebody with a better reach and who's more elusive than you, it doesn't matter how many power shots you're hitting him with. His bread and butter is wrestling and grinding. And that doesn't always make the most exciting fights. But it's super effective for him. And that's what wore down Anthony Johnson. Now, granted, you guys want to make fun of him and say, yes, he didn't have a great gas tank. But let me tell you something. Were you not scared after that first shot that he popped DC with?
I was saying it was over. I thought the fight was done. I was thinking, man, Anthony Johnson is the baddest dude on the planet. I really want to see him versus John Jones. This adds so much color to the 205-pound division. And I just feel like a lot of that color is gone now. I feel like the division is a little bit more boring because I feel like the pecking order is still so clearly defined.
Completely agree.
Sure.
If that's what Daniel Cormier was able to do to Anthony Rumble Johnson, I feel like, and this is the question I'm going to pose to you after, all I felt like after was like, Anthony, you were about to fight John Jones, you piece of shit. You couldn't go 10 minutes with someone that John Jones made look very amateur at the 205 division. I'm saying Daniel Cormier didn't look any better than Rashad. He didn't look better than anyone against John Jones. He looked like everybody else. Well, Cormier made Anthony Rumble Johnson look like a second-rate amateur. So, frankly, it's hard for me to see Anthony Rumble Johnson having done a thing against John Bones Jones because, frankly, all the same qualities exist. He would have been harder to hit. He would have been just as effective at the takedowns, we know, because he dominated every aspect of the wrestling game against Daniel Cormier. So why would I give a shit about the next fight is my question to you guys. I guess, do you think John Jones would have lost Anthony Johnson 4 out of 10 fights at all?
No, not at all. In fact,
I don't think so. I think looking at that fight, you have to pick John Jones as the probable champ. It really is just because, and you keep saying that I'm discounting Cormier a little bit. I probably am, but Johnson just looked so bad. After 10 minutes of fighting, he was walking back to his corner, and I thought he wasn't going to come back out. I thought he was that tired.
I mean,
and
he
that's unheard
tapped.
of in a title fight.
He tapped off bullshit, Raph. Like, that was why, or before we got on the phone with you, Joe, I was like, Raph, I think you might have had a better chance because I know you can heel hook. And Anthony Johnson doesn't seem to know how to do that. But like,
Kevin, when you speak from this luxurious ability of nothingness,
I know.
it's hard to really put it in any
Not
perspective.
getting hit in the face.
Because I'll say this. The other thing is I commended him for getting back out there because, man, that look on his face when he was just wiped out and he's going to his corner and he could barely find his corner, I thought, shit. I'll say this about John Jones and him. I didn't think that he was going to be better than John Jones in any respect. I just thought he had the power to make things interesting. And I still think that's what happened here. He had that power, and we got a glimpse of it. And, Joe, you alluded to it. And I don't think he celebrated too early. I just think he didn't capitalize on it as much as he needed to make that moment really matter. He kind of let DC get in the game, and DC's natural instinct is to go back to the cage. So it's an interesting thing. So Kevin's alluding to this, and we can go ahead and transition here unless anybody has anything else to say about how terrible Daniel Cormier is compared to nothing.
Daniel Cormier is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal fighter.
He's the number one 205-pounder on the planet right now as far as the UFC is concerned. Here's why I shit on Daniel Cormier sometimes. It's because of the 2008 Olympics. He was an Olympic team member. He was a 2007 world bronze medalist, so he had a really good shot at making the podium for Team USA. And he missed weight. He a couple of days before, as he was getting ready to cut to a 211-pound weight class, his kidneys shut down. He had to be rushed to the hospital. He had to be pulled out of the games because his weight cut was so fucked up. And it's not like he was too big for the weight class. It turns out he was just eating like way too much KFC and McDonald's. So that's why I always have like a little chip on my shoulder when I talk about Cormier. How do you miss weight at the Olympics, bro?
Well, that was way more legit than my beef with him. That one goes way back.
I mean,
like
you have to also understand, audience.
It's a patriotic beef.
Is it? God. Sure, if you want to call it that. I will give you this much. It is the forbidden must not do. It's like the one thing wrestlers really get mad at each other for is missing weight. Having said that, I don't know what Daniel Cormier's natural weight is ever. I feel like it's always a race to 205 no matter where he's at. So
I can't believe he used to fight it heavy. Like, that part destroys me. Watching him against, like, light heavies, it's like, you almost got fucking physicality. Like, Anthony's just not in shape, it turns out. Let me ask you guys this. What did you think of Daniel Cormier's little sign-off to the Joe Rogues, UFC, John Jones, get your shit together? What do you feel
Joe,
about
you
that?
go first.
Yeah. I'm going to attack this from I'm of two minds about this. I don't get mad at anybody for trying to sell their next pay-per-view fight. I don't get mad at that, and that's what he was trying to do. But I think he went about it the entirely wrong way. John Jones is so clearly supposed to be the heel in this. And all you have to do as Daniel Cormier is be the baby face. And the number one rule of baby faces is don't look into the camera and start swearing. Be the good guy, kiss a baby, shake some hands, be the good guy, and that's how you're going to sell the fight easier.
Okay,
Bring a
well,
little professional
Joe,
wrestling into it.
Yeah,
And you always can. But Joe, here's the thing: you brought it up, so now I feel like you need to tell us what he should have said as a true babyface. And Kevin and I will grade you on this. So we're going to go ahead and give you the opportunity right now to say what Daniel Cormier should have said.
I'm here with the champion, Daniel Cormier, fresh off the victory. How do you feel?
Thank you, Joe Rogan. This message goes out to all my fans here on Memorial Day weekend. We're going to do this up right. We're going to bring in John Jones. We're going to have the best fight. And it's for each and every single one of you Patriots out there who's doing it big. I love you guys. Let's do this and bring this belt home. And you're going to sell a shitload of pay-per-views because now he's like a fan favorite. He needs to buy ice cream for everybody. Everybody's going to be rooting for him. Everybody's going to want John Jones to lose because he's a cokehead who hits pregnant women. That is the Vince McMahon take, and that's how you sell pay-per-views.
That's not bad. Kevin, how do you grade that on a scale of A to F?
I'm going to give it a solid B minus, only because I feel like there was a real clear opportunity to support the troops and Jesus, and
Absolutely.
those two of the three were skipped. If you had supported the troops and Jesus, A plus.
I actually have to go the route of C plus because I agree with you on the troops. Why would you bring up Memorial Day and not say we've got some great troops and then point to some because there's always some at the UFC fight.
Probably.
I think they have a reserve section. And, Joe, I got to tell you this. As a true pro wrestling fan, there were no mentions of vitamins, prayers.
I feel pretty ashamed right now. I'm not going to lie.
Well, luckily, there's always next week. So, Johnson and Cormier, fine fight. Johnson didn't have the cardio I thought that deserved the respect of the title fight.
You went from saying it's shitty to he's terrible.
It was an exciting fight. It was an exciting fight.
fight.
I just can't forgive Anthony Rumble Johnson for not being able to make it 15 minutes. I
He
can't.
was unprofessional.
It felt unprofessional to me. You weren't prepared to wrestle? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'll tell you this. Well, you guys find it unprofessional in that realm. My biggest concern was who was giving this man instruction on jiu-jitsu or wrestling. More
fair
important,
point.
wrestling.
Was anyone?
I don't think so because naturally, obviously, it's great to have an endurance cardio coach. That those things happen in the cage. It's an adrenaline jump that it can always happen, and that's fine. And he's been there, so I thought
It can happen in any competition. That's why it's so confusing.
But the big one was, why was somebody not working on the basics? Because that was where DC was making him look like an amateur, was just picking him up at will, finding the right entries, blocking him properly. I mean, it was really great to watch in terms of a wrestling exhibition. So kudos.
Yeah,
to
especially
DC
as
on
a
that.
jiu-jitsu person, it's nice to know that people aren't studying it. So we're going to be good to go if we run into that.
However, the one thing that was interesting to see in the post presser is not only did Daniel Cormier tell Karen Bryant that they will address him as the champ on the set of UFC tonight,
She'll love that.
or Champ Cormier. I will say, this is how you know Karen Bryant is cool as anything.
She's had a child, Daniel, but trust me, she wants to call you champ. I'm just saying.
She was.
Did he
looking
really do that?
What's that?
Did he really no, you're going to refer to me as the champion? Did he really
He's
say that?
joking.
Absolutely.
He's mostly joking. Like, he's a pretty
I'll
jovial
send you
guy.
the link.
Yeah.
But
That's
the other thing that Karen did that was so great is Karen was looking directly into the camera and just goes, guys, I got to say, I work with Daniel Cormier every day, and it's just amazing to see him accomplish his dream. But, man, he's going to be the worst on set. He's just going to be the worst. And I laughed profusely. But that wasn't all that happened, because they, for whatever reason, allowed Ryan Bader to just walk up when Daniel Cormier was calling him out. So, did you see any of this, Joe?
I saw that Ryan Bader ran up and started trash talking. I have to assume he was in full Ultimate Warrior makeup when he did that. Cormier and Bader is going to be a nice placeholder fight, but we all know that we're just waiting for John Jones to get back and reestablish himself.
Agreed. It's not even. I only disagree that it's a nice placeholder fight. I think it's a shitty placeholder fight. But Raph, do you like that strategy, calling out a lesser opponent? Like, to go from Anthony Rebel Johnson, it's like Gustafsson sitting on a couch somewhere pissed off, I bet.
No, Gustafsson, I mean, his mind isn't right in the game right now.
Oh, okay. It's like Gustafsson's like, I was doing cocaine off a Swedish hooker. I'm sorry, I didn't watch the fight. What happened?
I think Gustafsson's in that place of he just watched the guy who brutally mutilated him get dismantled for easy pickings from Daniel Cormier. So I'm pretty sure he's going through it'd be great.
Gustafsson's better than Anthony Johnson. We have to go to Weidman Belfort. We have to go to Weidman Vitor. We're at the 20-minute mark.
Sure.
We're way behind. Chris Weidman beats the ever-living shit out of Vitor Belfort. Does anyone want to disagree?
Loved every second of it. Second of it.
Me too. Raph, any big takeaway from this other than Vitor Belfort? Okay. I'm going to start with Raph, then I'm curious Joe's perspective. Do you think this was about Chris Weidman or about Vitor Belfort not being all that exciting a fighter anymore? I'm curious.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mentioned it the other week on the podcast when I did previously. I have it from a very good source that Vitor Belfort just doesn't have knees anymore. He doesn't have any ligaments in his knees that are worth anything. He can't sprawl. He can't shrimp. And so as soon as he got him to the ground, it was really just a matter of time. But Chris Weidman really is that good.
That was fantastic analysis that was designed for me to answer, but thank you.
Was it?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I'm taking over.
It's
Well,
it's like, I don't know who I'm replacing.
Over Kevin's lines, but you don't step over my lines. God damn it. No, Joe, if I could tell you this, did you hear a little bit about how Vitor's testosterone was magically higher than Chris Weidman's?
Even off the TRT?
Oh,
well.
Even theoretically off the TRT?
Yeah,
there we go. Because that's when Weidman got really angry, and he ended up getting really, really confrontational with Vitor at the weigh-ins, and they asked him about it, and they're like, were you able to put everything past you after the fight? And he said, yes. He goes, but what happened was my TRT levels were kind of down because, you kill yourself during the fight training camp. But for some strange reason, this much older fighter who's been fighting forever doing the same training camp had TRT level or testosterone levels that were like 3 times mine. So, yeah, pretty pissed.
That was a pretty great post-fight interview moment. They asked him, are you over it? Like, is the beef spilled? And his answer was pretty much like, I guess because you're asking me and I'm a nice guy, I'll say yes, but I still don't like him.
Yeah. You can also tell that they had a bunch of Brazilian reporters there because they were trying to egg it on, and they're like, hey, Chris Weidman, man, you beat all the Brazilians. Can you come beat up our Brazilian politicians? And he's like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And they go, okay, what do you think about Vitor versus Anderson Silva? I don't care.
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't even watch the fight, but sure, that sounds like something that probably will happen.
Are there any other Brazilian fighters that you do like?
Chuck Liddell's good.
Jacare, and he just goes,
oh yeah, Jacare.
Yeah, him. Other people too. So poor Weidman afterwards. But Kev,
Jacare seems next to me. Jacare seems like he's on deck.
Luke Rockhold may have a problem with you saying.
No, they're going to give it to Rockhold.
Yeah, but Rockhold sucks. So after that fight, then it'll be
Rockhold beat Jacare.
Yeah.
Rockhold beat Jacare.
Recently, or was that was a while ago, wasn't it?
That was a while ago, but still.
Oh, okay. No, Jacare.
One more win than Jacare has over Rockhold.
That's true.
I'm gonna make a crazy prediction. I think if and when Jacare and Weidman face off, and I think they will face off for the belt one day, I think Weidman pounds him out on the ground. And I love Jacare's jiu-jitsu. I just don't think he's going to have enough to stop a relentless top game from Chris Weidman.
You are very wrong in that regard.
I said it's an outrageous pick, but I'm sticking with it.
Okay. Well, already a more interesting fight than this was. Which, by the way, anyone that's been like into UFC and isn't already a Vitor Belfort fan saw this coming a mile the fuck away.
He debuted at UFC 12.
Yeah, go Vitor. Like, unbelievable. It's just like, dude, Chris Weidman's kind of old, and you're 8 years older. Like, at 30, Chris Weidman is at, like, his peak. And you are 8 years older than that. It's like, god damn.
Okay.
That was rough.
Let me ask this, because this was interesting.
Senior UFC, like a senior PGA, I think it's time, don't you?
No, Kevin. No.
Okay. I'm just throwing ideas out.
It's a terrible suggestion.
Would it have the same rules, or would they have to like peel back like elbows on the ground and stuff like that, or is it full kill each other rules?
I mean,
I
if
think
they
it
want
would
to get in
be
there.
use elbows if you still have them.
Or knees if you can. If they
There'd
move.
be 5-minute breaks in between rounds.
Everybody just drinks iced
come
tea.
in for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, okay. Belfort comes out, and he is interestingly doing the thing I had predicted him to do, which was to come out in a flurry and just try and make a statement very quickly. He
How
catches
else was he gonna
Weidman,
try
cuts
and
him
win?
up a little bit, and
Yeah.
suddenly it looks like we've got a fight here until Belfort can't rein it in. And in the post presser, Chris Weidman was saying he
You
felt
mean
like
until he got taken down, and then that was the fight. Like, literally, he
Yes.
got taken down.
Good
It was like,
job.
oh, well, fight's over. So, good. That was fun.
Chris Weidman was saying the real reason why he got popped and he was a little surprised, but then he realized, much like an evil villain or an evil boss in a video game, he was wasting all of his power, and his power energy bar, this is exactly how he was describing it. His power energy bar was going down, and he thought he should just let him work himself down. And that's why that takedown was not only effortless, but just, oh, this isn't good. No. No, that's bad. I don't need to see this anymore. Let's call this, right?
Completely
so they took
agreed.
the guy who was describing his opponent like a video game and started asking him about Brazilian politics, like he would have any idea.
I'll say this. I don't think that Chris Weidman is very articulate. I think he is a good champion. And any more example of that will come from the after-fight interview where I was like, you know what, dude, good job. That was a really good performance. You did put some haters down. But then it turned into, you guys better get on board with me because I don't like me. You guys won't like me. Just like me. This is the last chance, guys. And I go, God damn it. Let your
Again,
fights be the thing.
Heel School 101. You get up and you say, fuck the haters. If you're a fan, you're a fan. Otherwise, go blow yourself. Like, just do something. Yeah, I agree. He sucks, kind of, at the press stuff. He does. He's boring.
It was terrible.
He'll
He's
work
not
on
a
it.
talker.
Well,
He's
let me
not a
talk about
talker.
someone who's not boring. Donald Cerrone. In fact, he proved how not boring he was when he offered Chris Weidman a beer. Chris Weidman was like, sorry, I'm from New Jersey. I'm the only one from New Jersey that doesn't drink. Donald Cerrone wins via KO TKO. I don't know many people that had John McDessie winning. We do know Donald Cerrone was a little injured going into the fight. More my curiosity, because, you know, it's not all that uncommon that Donald Cerrone comes in and knocks someone out on a UFC card. In fact, it feels like it's hard to call it a UFC card if he doesn't. Does he finally get the title shot? Donald Cerrone
think
gets
he
the
does.
title shot. Joe.
I think you have to give it to him. I think it's hurt a little bit that Dos Anjos did beat Cerrone not that long ago. I think like 2 years ago he picked up a unanimous decision.
That was
but, I
27
don't-
fights ago for Donald Cerrone.
That was 27. Yeah, so that puts it. Oh man, just a year
Certainly
ago.
a few. No,
27 fights.
it's like that was almost 4 months. It's like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
The
Well, they
interesting
tried to
thing I
book him
saw,
again. They tried to get Cerrone another fight for after the main event, but they just couldn't pick up anybody in time.
I think the one interesting thing is, so I did a nice preview for
First
a
slice.
website that I write for, yes, First Slice, and
You can say it right. The website you write
I
for.
can, Kevin, but I don't understand why you felt the need to be like, Raph's not going to say it, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
I just wanted to chime in, not make it. I'm just trying to add like a humble factor to it. First slice. You know.
So I did a preview with our good friend Bubba McDaniel, first guest, one of the family members on the show, and this was his quote about McDessie. McDessie has no fucking chance I like McDessie, but I found out he and I have the same birthday when they listed all the fighters who were born on the same day. So happy birthday to him, but your birthday present is going to be a head kick, Bubba McDaniel. That exactly happened.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's go Bubba for the
So-
rather timely call.
Speaking of timely, so turns out you can't ask for a timeout or a timesies in the middle of a fight. Who knew?
Which is good to know. That's great to know, isn't it? Like, did you guys think that you could before this?
I wasn't sure, but now I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, I thought timeouts were in. So thank God we know that that is not the case. That's
If
big.
he was a New England Patriot, they would have found a rule to let him take a timeout.
Or he'd be suspended for 4 fights. One of the two.
Also,
I think
it's not
you
a
have.
podcast without a Deflategate joke. Well done, Joe. Thank you. You can't get that on
quarterback
any
will
other
not cover.
sports.
Yeah,
Talk
well,
shit.
you know,
You
he's
calm
also
down
in the
there.
Baltimore area. He has no choice but to hate the Patriots. And technology, presumably.
The interesting thing about watching Donald Cerrone kick somebody so gloriously is just, we make fun of John Medeski. Obviously, he took the fight on short notice, and props to him for wanting to fight. Donald Cerrone, who's no stranger to putting on ridiculous exhibitions. But I will say, and we did a meme of this, we put a meme out that said, John McDessie has a killer Zach Morris impression. So you guys should go find that on the Instagram. Joe, is there anybody that you want to see? So you want the title shot for Cerrone, right?
yeah, I think he's earned it. I think he's up to like 30 fights in the UFC or something like that, a ridiculous number. And I really want to see Donald Cerrone become champion because I'm really curious if they'll let a UFC champion fight 3 times a month and fight on like all these weird underground cards that they air like 2 a.m. from Australia and stuff.
He's going to be
The thing
fighting
that
from
they've
Singapore. He's going to be fighting from
Yeah.
Thailand. Yeah.
He'll fight every 3 weeks. He'll fight every 3 weeks. Defend that belt.
I'm sure Ryan Bader will be lined up. Sorry, Ryan.
That's all right. The thing that they've been alluding to is they've been alluding to the fact that, and Cerrone's been very straightforward with this. He said that he is seeing kind of the end of the tunnel in terms of his fighting career. He routinely tells Greg Jackson, his coach, that he is ready to almost call it. He's ready to almost be done. And they kind of look at every fight that it could be the last fight. So for me, I'd love to see a great championship run from him. If we're getting toward the end of that, I say you don't waste fights with Donald Cerrone anymore. Obviously, he's willing to fight at any time, even when he's injured. But I think a title fight is there. And if we get the honor of seeing Donald Cerrone be champion, I want to know what that world looks like.
Here's my proposal, and let me know what you two think of this. Let him get healthy. Let him get healed up. Is Dos Anjos healthy? If Dos Anjos and Pettis are healthy, let them fight it out again. If they're not healthy, scrap whoever's next and let Cerrone fight. No one has done what he's done in the UFC just in the past few years. No one's done this. No one's fought as hard or as frequently as he has. Give the goddamn fighter a title shot. Come on. Like, it's making me pissed off a little bit.
I agree with almost everything except the rematch thing for Pettis. I think Pettis got so outclassed in the fight. Not saying that if they were to have a rematch that would necessarily happen again, but he got beat so thoroughly in that fight that I don't think you can give Pettis an immediate rematch.
That's fine. Best case scenario for me, Donald Cerrone wins the title and Pettis challenges him. Because how badly do you want to see that fight?
I want to see it. I want to see it again. I think they already fought once.
I'm sure Raf's namesake would be pissed off at that little statement. Yes.
Yeah, it sounded earlier like Rafael was picking against Rafael. Is that what we were having?
No.
He
You can
can't.
go check my picks over at firstslice.com because I had my own picks to go up there. See, guys, I'm not just a moderator. I also back up my own trash talk as well. And why would I ever go against the science that is my name? Because you're bringing this up, and Uriah Hall and Rafael Natal had a very close battle. But even when they were about to reveal a split decision winner, there was not a hesitation in my brain where I said, I wonder if he won. I just go, well, Rafael's going to win. And Uriah Hall was furious. beyond
I hope Adam
furious.
Sella still gets his residual check. That clip played again.
Yes. I think they'll be played till the end of the time.
I love that this fight's getting brought up. Rafael Natal, big win over Uriah Hall. Like, this to me is a little bit big. Uriah Hall had a little bit of momentum coming into this one. He was like 1 or 2 good wins away from being on a main card. Probably not now.
No. The hardest part about Uriah is that he didn't really put a game into play. And Natal's strikes comparatively looked really, really sloppy and really, really just barely making the distance. And if Uriah had pushed a little bit more and not allowed him to dictate it, he would have won easily, I feel. But you can't go against the namesake. So,
And Joe, Andrei Arlovsky knocks out Travis Brown in one of the most fun 21 seconds left to fight. Like, one of the most fun first rounds from start to
It was
finish.
a barn burner.
Like, they just went out and was like, one of us is dying. So let's just decide who that is. The old-fashioned way with fists. What were you surprised by in that fight?
I was surprised by a couple of things. I was really surprised by, first of all, Travis Brown's ability to take punishment. Because Andrei Arlovsky, he has lost a slight step with age, I thought at least. He still hits like a truck, and Travis Brown took about 3,000 right hands directly to the chin before one finally put him down.
I mean, almost countered and knocked out Arlovsky. Like, despite that barrage.
Yeah, I was impressed by Arlovsky's ability to get back up. He has shown in the past, when you hurt him, it's over. I'm not sure I've ever seen Arlovsky get hurt and come back to win a fight. And I'm really impressed by his comeback. I don't know where he's pulling out this Fountain of Youth stuff. I'm hoping the drug test comes back clean. But he's looking incredible.
Yeah. And the two of them ripped for their respective weight divisions. Like, they looked fantastic.
It's really rare to see a fight where both guys just kind of agree that they're going to Rochambeau each other until somebody falls down.
Ref, how long do you think I would have made it as a third bystander in that fight? Like, if I had just been walking around starting shit.
I don't even understand how you put yourself into that equation. I think the first problem would be, who's your manager and who let you do this? And if the answer is me, then it's payback for all of the stupidity that you have ever brought onto this show.
Well, I think I would have been dead 21 seconds in is when I felt like I would have been dead. Like, just the way they were swinging, it was like, I don't want to be near that.
The one thing that was really interesting is that it reminded me that Travis Brown, one of his best attributes is the fact that he could absorb the worst kinds of punishment. And it made me remind myself and go, oh, you know what? That's not a great strategy forever. Yeah. Yeah, you can't do that forever and ever. Somebody's going to always knocked out. Okay, well, it was a fun ride. And, man, I think people were calling it Fight of the Year, but I don't know if it was Fight of the Year, but it definitely was one of the most exciting displays I think we've seen in a while from that. Those kind
I'll
of
call
fighters.
it most exciting fight of the year to date so far easily.
Sure. To date, this second, at the moment I can recall and download in my brain. Yes.
I was like,
it is the winner of that distinguished award. But I don't know. I mean, I felt like it was a great fight. Comparatively, if you guys want to go even further, we can go now, I guess, to Joseph Benavidez and John Moraga. And here's the interesting thing about this
the
fight.
only decision on the main card.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think... Like, Kevin, are you able to read anymore?
Cormier submitted Johnson, Weidman KO'd Belfort, Cerrone TKO'd McDessie, and Arlovsky TKO'd Brown.
Okay.
Benavidez,
Wow,
Morgan. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So where did you stand on Benavidez and Moraga, Joe?
Actually, a pretty good fight. All the times where John Moraga was able to do the stuff that he wanted to do, it was a really exciting fight. And then Joseph Benavidez would kind of take over for the last 2 or 3 minutes of the round and just kind of bleed it out with top control and pressure. Overall, a pretty good fight. I think in the post-fight interview, Benavidez said there was meat flying all over the octagon, and I really, really, that's a pretty good description of the fight.
Meat flying. I love
There
it
was
when they
meat
just
flying
talk
all over
off
the octagon.
Yeah, I mean, how do you argue with that?
Doesn't matter how many times you say it. It's meat. You can't get over it.
Everywhere.
I guess we could also say, guys, I think it is time to reveal who won last week's edition of Over Under Kevin. Before we do, I'm going to ask you, Joe, how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. I know I got a couple of them wrong. I clearly got the main event wrong. Anthony fucking Johnson fucking me up there. But I think I did all right. I think I did over 50%, and I think I won.
Okay. Well, here's the good news. You may have guessed incorrectly with Anthony fucking Johnson, but so did Kevin in choosing Anthony fucking Johnson as well.
True.
Yeah, I heard Anthony Johnson tried to run a 5K today and actually just stopped 20 seconds in and was like, no, I'm good. That's just what I heard.
He was rushed to the hospital. He's going to be given a medical suspension off that 5K. Really dangerous.
He tapped out. He said he tapped out. There was a librarian that passed him and he was like, not interested. She's 43. She's in great shape.
Kevin, I feel like the next time you gas out of something, I want to put it to everyone out there that you are more than welcome to make fun of Kevin for doing
I am not a professional fucking athlete fighting for the fucking 205 fucking pound title. He wasn't just tired. He couldn't find his side of the cage. There are only two sides. He couldn't find his. That's how furiously tired he was.
I just feel like maybe you haven't had enough wrestlers push you around to the point where they'll overwork you so much that they'll exhaust you.
Well, fair. Maybe I haven't. I just assumed Anthony Rumble Johnson had, or that he had prepared for that possibility when he was going up against the best wrestler in the UFC.
Great. So you're agreeing with the point that I made 30 minutes ago. Fantastic. I was right. Let's go and reveal who we thought won. Kevin, do you have any remarks before we get to saying who won?
I'm sure I actually won. Okay. Whether or not the score reflects that, it's hard to say.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, what was the wager again real quick before we reveal who it is?
Toast at Uncle Julio's. Unsolicited, by the way, which I really enjoyed. Just like the idea that one of us is going to start doing a set and just turn it into a toast to the other one.
That's brilliant. Kevin, what is the nicest thing that you can say about Joe?
Well, first of all, people that are able to be funny on a spontaneous moment. Few and far between. People that can also do that and talk about UFC and mixed martial arts cohesively. Very rare. So always a pleasure when we can find someone that can rap with you and I very quickly, which is not an easy thing to do because unlike Anthony Rumble Johnson, you and I would never enter a verbal altercation only prepared for 30 seconds. Sexually, that's my game, but verbally, never. So that's my compliment to Joe.
So I guess in what you're telling us right now is you've got some work to do before you are forced to give a toast in Joe's honor.
Oh, this is bullshit. Is this about Pyle losing to Covington? That fucker with his goddamn mullet.
It's actually more than that. Kevin, you had 7 out of 11 picks. We had to scratch the women's strawweight category after Nina basically died.
Yeah.
So
that was a little-known story. Had to take her to the hospital?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She had le flu. So, yes, you had 6 out of 11. Joe had 7 out of 11, Kevin.
That's bullshit.
So, good news, bad news. Good news.
Over 500.
Does put you over 500, which is not bad for you. Joe, how do you feel in Celebration winning?
I feel pleased with the inevitability of this win. I would like to thank you guys for giving me another opportunity to show that I am better than somebody at something. Thank you very much.
Well, if we are being fair in saying who's better at who, as mentioned previously, if you guys were to look at the picks on firstslice.com, The real winner of this whole altercation was me. I ended up getting 8 out of 11 right, and so I guess the pecking order is there.
Sure.
You know.
You made those picks 4 days closer to fight day. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it. I'm just saying you had more information than Joe and I did.
4 days
but
closer. I had more information, Kevin. You can't even lose with dignity. You have to
That's
go
the
out
fact
speaking.
of the matter. You made your picks on like Friday, which felt like 2 seconds before the fight. The rest of us, made our picks on Sunday, a little earlier.
Kevin, this is so
Were
great.
the picks before or after the weigh-ins?
The picks were before the weigh-in, so no. And believe me, there were a couple ones that I was looking at like where I go, uh-oh. Well, there's that. And I'll
Maybe
be
it was the
completely
phone problem. Didn't really hear your rap when you said who won. Not really important. Let's keep moving on.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you to tell me how to run my own show. But Joe, the nice part about this is that when I was putting it together, I will be very honest with you guys. I actually ended up picking Anthony Rumble Johnson to win.
You asshole! You've been giving us so much shit.
Yeah, dude, because you guys fucking deserve it. You guys have fucking been discussing it in a way where even last week I was trying to allude that maybe you guys should consider it, and you guys were so trash talking it. Now, was I more
To
interested
our defense,
in seeing if his
we
power
thought
would do
Anthony
it?
Johnson was a professional. We now know he is not. We didn't know this 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, anyway, so congratulations, Joe. You joined the list of many who have beaten Kevin. Do you have any words of advice to Kevin going forward? Because there's another event coming up very quickly.
Advice to Kevin about picking fights or just life in general? Because I don't know how much
Picking
time we
fights, asshole.
No,
Picking
no.
fights is the...
Clearly, something is wrong with him personally, so that maybe that's not allowing him to pick well. So, choose your own adventure.
Kevin, buddy, we're all here to help you. We all believe in you, and we all just want what's best for you. Sounds like I'm about to do an intervention for you.
Don't worry, that's
but I'm
coming
not,
up
because
next.
I don't care that much. When in doubt, always pick the guy with the manlier name. I broke that rule when I picked Covington versus Mike Pyle, but usually that ends up being a pretty good indicator.
Well, good. And Joe, where can people find you on the interwebs?
At
Sure, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at BadTweetist. BadTweetist.
And I have to say, Joe, it was a pleasure to see you joining us and throwing some jokes our way. I hope you'll be joining us as we do live commentary during fights more often. You're a good time, man.
No doubt.
He
Absolutely.
won't be
Thank
able
you
to
guys for
hold
having me.
himself back. We can already tell. Joe's a gamer. Joe's in on the UFC. He's addicted. He can't. When you're addicted, it's just like a hard line.
It's okay. Joe's going to be next week for the next pay-per-view, just sitting down in his own apartment and holding his own version of Over Under Kevin where he plays both parts.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, you know we have particular allegiance, especially at Verbal Tap. We love Systems Training Center. We were just talking about them. We were just talking about the beating I endured, and the last time I was there, I might have vomited after a lot of consecutive no-gi rounds. We have someone who's, first of all, gonna be on the Tim Bosch versus Dan Henderson UFC Fight Night 68 lineup. We have Christos Giagos, who will be fighting Chris Wade, and we're stoked because we know Christos is going to stomp his ass. Christos, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. And, as you mentioned, I have a fight coming up, and I'm looking forward to that.
Raph told me this, and frankly, it makes me upset because I don't understand how I get to that level. You were just invited to Vegas by Crazy Horse, which is, an adult establishment in many ways, to just watch the fight. That's how in demand you are. They were like, we need you here to watch the fight to bring credibility. How do I get there? What's the secret?
It's all about who you know. You know what I mean? I have a great manager, great management, and he hit me up and was like, "Do you want to go watch the fights in Vegas, they'll pay you to just go watch. And I was like, of course. Like, yeah, I'm down to go to a strip club and watch some fights and get paid. And so, you know, I got my room comped. I got, good seats. They, you know, the people that came with me, they had a bottle service. I didn't drink, you know, obviously I have a fight coming up, but, you know, they were satisfied. And we had a good time, you know. We just went. I got my workout in and watched the fights. Great fights, by the way. And it was a good time. So I was really stoked I got that opportunity.
Let's take a moment here, Christos, to talk about bottle service, because when they're offering that to you, that's a shrewd move on their part as a negotiator, because they're like, oh, you have a fight in a couple weeks? No problem. Free bottle service. Compliments of Crazy Horse. It's kind of an ingenious thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, they knew I had a fight. Well, actually, I took this event before I got the fight. So I found out about the fight after I already told them yes. So when we got there, I had some friends with me. My manager brought some people, and they drank it up, and we watched the fight, and it was a good time.
So when you say you're at an adult establishment, and things are going on there, and you're enjoying yourselves, do the strippers just take a break when in between fights? Are they just as invested in the fights as you are?
Well, the strippers, they have their own. There was like another room they were in doing their dances. They weren't really watching the fights. They're there trying to make their money. You know what I mean? But we were there just in another room, and we weren't really watching the strippers. I only got to see them when I went to the bathroom because I've been peeing a lot. I'm drinking a lot of water. So
don't stop with the details. Let me ask you this: did you feel like someone out-danced Anthony Rumble? Do you feel like someone was like, "Hey, their cardio was way better than his"? Did you feel that at all, or?
No, not really. But it was a good time. It was a good time.
Christos, can you do me a favor? Kevin's been having a great amount of fun at the expense of Anthony Rumble Johnson. Can you take a moment to talk about the high caliber wrestling of Daniel Cormier? And as a fighter, does that possibly wear you out, especially if you're a big guy at about 205?
Oh yeah, wrestling is probably the takes the most cardio out of you. Even though sometimes it can be boring from the outside eye, but it is the most exhausting, I would have to say. And especially Daniel Cormier, who the majority of his fights he fought a heavyweight, so he's strong. He's really, really strong. And me and my manager got into it too about Bill David's the better wrestler, this and that. I'm like, no, but Cormier is just so strong and his pressure's so good. And I knew if Cormier took him down, he was gonna win.
Okay, that's
fascinating.
It
Christos,
sounds like
do you
nothing
feel like
I was arguing earlier, so that's strange.
Christos, do you feel like you would have gassed out that quickly, or do you think that your cardio is such that on a professional level you could make it more than 10 minutes?
Who, me, myself?
Yeah.
Versus Daniel Cormier?
Well, just in general, do you feel like if someone started wrestling you, you would get gassed immediately, or would you be able to withstand that type of pressure?
I think I would be able to withstand it because I work really hard, and I actually come from a wrestling background.
Wait, I'm confused. Hold on. Let's go back a second. Why would you be prepared for that type of thing in the octagon?
Because I'd be fighting a wrestler.
Oh, fascinating. Oh, okay. That's all. I was just curious. It sounds like you might.
Christos, it's so great that Kevin has all this experience being able to tell you how a wrestler or a fighter should act when he basically threw up after appearing at Systems Training Center when you guys were taking it easy on him, which is insane. Insane.
I for sure did, Bob. And I would just like it noted that Christos feels like he would have prepared for a wrestling match. That's funny to me. I find that fascinating.
That's fine. But in this scenario, Christos is also not 205 and also, taking on
his nickname is the Spartan
wrestler.
Raph. He'll fight anyone. He'll fight Daniel Cormier. That's how the Spartan works.
You know what?
Christos...
Let's go ahead and make that fight then. Cormier, his first title defense will be against
Christos, let's just go ahead and put it in the books. You're going to be taking on Daniel Cormier for the 205-pound. No, Christos, talk to us about your fight life. How are you staying ready for the Tim Bosch, Dan Hendo crowd when you fight Chris Wade? What are you doing to get ready for the fight?
I'm preparing for a wrestler. No, I'm actually fighting a wrestler. He's a New York high school state champ, and so I've been actually doing a lot of wrestling lately, and just making sure my cardio is good for that because I know he's going to want to wrestle me. He might try to down me a little bit, but,
no, that sounds very smart to me.
Yeah. But he has a little bit of a kickboxing background, so of course I'm always working that, working my jits, working how to get back to my feet, working not to get taken down, and basically just working a lot of cardio. I think for me personally, cardio is the number one important thing because that's the one thing you can control in a fight, and so that's why I got to make it happen.
Yeah, and you've been on a little bit of a crazy tear. You're 5-1 over your last 6 fights. On your way to doing some really cool things. How do you feel? And are you at the point where? So I'm always curious because obviously you're preparing for a wrestler because you're saying that's their strengths. Are you also at a point where you feel strong enough with your game that you're just kind of preparing for your strengths?
Yeah, I'm always working on my strengths. You know what I mean? I would say I'm more of a boxing wrestler too, so I wouldn't be surprised if I take him down. You know what I mean? So I always stick with my strengths. I don't care if he's a wrestler; it's not going to stop me from wrestling him. And I'm gonna be in his face. You know, I like to put the pressure, and I'm gonna finish the fight. Call it a knockout because I don't like going to decisions. I haven't been to a decision since 2011. You know what I mean? My last 7 wins are all finishes.
Literally. That's what your Sure Dog even has it. Like, you have not gone into a decision in a long time.
Yeah. No, I don't do decisions. Even though if I lose a fight, it's going to be an exciting fight regardless. You know what I mean? I'm either getting finished or I'm doing the finishing. And most likely I'm a finishes guy, so that's going to happen.
So talk to us about this. You know, you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started. And if you want to segue that to a little bit about your RFA experience, because you were killing it in RFA, man. So I know that led to your UFC kind of experience and getting in there. So tell us a little bit about your background and all of that.
Like how I got started fighting?
Yep.
Well, you know, I actually played football most of my life, and then I got to high school, and I went to Redondo in my senior year. I decided to try to wrestle, so I joined the wrestling team. Did really well. Actually, I took the MVP at my school, and me and my friends one day put on some MMA gloves because we watched a UFC event, and we just started like going at it. You know, we're picking people who to fight. I ended up knocking out my boy, and like as much as I felt bad. Like it felt kind of good. So the next week I started training. I was like, I went to the gym. And I was like, I want to fight. You know what I mean? And they was like, well, you have to train. So I started training.
Okay, Christos, let's put a pause in this moment real quick.
All right.
So,
Raph, why? I mean, he had a fight. It felt natural. He just went going. Isn't that everybody's story?
Absolutely. You know, I know a lot of people go that way, but you said your boy. So, your friend here, I'm assuming if you're calling him your boy, you guys are good.
Yeah.
What happened to this guy? Is he a fighter?
No, he was a wrestler on the wrestling team as well.
So his unprofessional record is unfortunately a lost record right now. You said you felt bad for him. You knocked him out. How does that process go? Especially considering it seems like you're watching some fights and you're like, let's throw on some gloves and see what happened. And you knock out the guy. What happens after that? What's the first thing that goes through your head?
Well, first thing, I made sure he was all right. And then, you know, we drove in the same car on the way back home, and it was pretty silent, you know. It took a couple days to actually get, you know, back to, like, being really, really cool without that awkward moment. And now that I'm in the UFC, he always, like, tells me, I want a rematch, you know. But now we're, like, really cool, you know. He likes the fact that I kept going my career, and he doesn't feel so bad that he got knocked out, you know what I mean?
That's fine, but can you tell him something like, dude, I'd give you a rematch if
you know what he means.
Halfway in the UFC. So if you get into the UFC, I'll give you a rematch. It's totally fine.
Yeah, well, you know, he actually weighs like 100 pounds more than me. So,
Whoa,
we
whoa.
probably had to find a way to do that. And, like,
Christos, let me ask you this. You mean to tell me you're just picking on poor 100-pound overweight, or over you, I guess, guys just randomly?
Well, kind of, because the thing is, like, when we set up the fight night, nobody wanted to fight me and nobody wanted to fight him. So I was like, I'll fight him, you know what I mean? Because, like, they were trying to set up close to the weight, and nobody wanted to fight me, nobody wanted to fight him, so we just fought each other, and, yeah, it went that way.
Well, I'm glad to hear things went well, and that you have somebody who has a major role in your start as a fighter. The part of me, I think I assume I would be the person who get knocked out in that situation. So I can imagine the silent ride and the great text of like, that guy didn't last as long as I did. I'm still awesome. Never forget.
The
Rematch.
Silent Ride is a cool title, by the way. We should call it that more often.
That's going to be the name of the book that we write for you one of these days, Christos. So
you took the silent ride.
You took the silent ride, Christos. So you're working your way. You start taking training a little more seriously then, and what happens next after that?
Yeah, I started training within 1 year. I had my first professional fight. I went 3-0 with winning a title at Respect in the Cage. And then I fought my fourth fight ever, only a year and a half of training. I fought Joe Camacho, who's been fighting for like 15 years at that point. And I ended up winning. So that really set in like, okay, I like this. I can do this. And then I just, kept it up. And then, I just kept winning fights. I lost. I lost 2 on the way. But after that second loss, that really I don't think I've ever been more mad in my whole entire life to this day from that loss. So I fought for the Tachi Palace title the first time, and I got guillotined by a guy I should have never got guillotined by. So after that, I just went on a rampage. Finished 4 straight opponents, got that RFA title shot, and won that one too.
Wow, let this be a lesson. Should you guillotine Christos, he will only come back stronger and more angry. So
think about your choices. You can guillotine him occasionally. It is available, but it's not the smartest, long-term thing to do.
You're making things worse for other people down the line, I guess, is a nice takeaway from
right
that.
You are. His next 2 opponents got TKO'd, then a submission, then another TKO. So think about that before you.
Christos, the thing is, our good friend, and I mean not good friend, terrible human being, Marcus Koval refers to you as one of the best natural athletes that he has ever seen.
Which is his way of saying you don't work very hard. That's
obviously. If that is the case, what is it about that training camp? Because you're training over at Systems. I know you train a couple other places. Tell us a little bit about that regimen and what it is that you think that you've always shown a nice exhibition for in MMA.
Wait, so Marlon, hold on. Sorry, I'm a little confused on the question.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a several part question. So
yeah, you're a fighter, so don't ever feel bad about being confused about a question. You get hit routinely. I just wish I had that excuse. I get confused by refs' questions all the time. It's like, I don't ever get hit in the head. So what's mine?
Yeah. No, so I just let you know about my training camp, and then what was the second part?
Training camp, and how has that influenced kind of the way you fight as well?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I train obviously at Systems Training Center. That's where that's like my home gym. That's where all my good friends are. A lot of great fighters, and so happy to be with them. But I also jump around. I tend to go to the Black House when I can, mostly Wednesdays. I'm down at Team Oyama's, working with Jiva Santana and Colin Oyama. And then on Thursdays, I go down to the Gracie Academy and get some Gracie Jiu-Jitsu on with Hidon Gracie, Hannah Gracie, and my boy Mike. But, then other than that, I'm at Systems Training Center with my pals. And it's good. Training's good. It influences me because, they push themselves really hard. And I feel like a lot of them look up to me, and it makes me want to be a better fighter. If I'm setting an example, I want to be that example. And so I just, it it drives me. Pushes me to be a better fighter, a better person. Yeah.
Okay, well,
And what's
we play
good?
a game here on the show, and it's called Who's the Worst at Systems Training Center. And you have actually been mentioned as being one of the worst.
Yeah, you should think about that, Christos.
They're jealous of my abs.
I mean, sure.
I'm jealous of your abs, if we're just being honest. About
So
whose abs.
now that you're on the show, we have to ask you to make it only fair. Who is the worst at Systems Training Center and why?
The worst, I would have to say, is Dmitry Gerasimov. Just because he thinks he's flashy with all his flashy kicks. And but it's funny because like it looks cool, but when it hits you, like you don't even know it.
That's how I would describe Dimitri in general. Like when I rolled, it was like he hit me, but I didn't. Someone had to tell me that's who I was rolling with. Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I like you walk out of the fight, and then it's like you think you won because you feel like it was a flawless victory, but then you watch the film, like, okay, I guess he did hit me.
So wait, that's a
Mortal Kombat
backdoor compliment because it started off with Dimitri, he's the worst, right? He's
that guy.
So bad, he kicks you and it's really good. What a guy. Should we also mention
I'll see you guys at System.
I was about to say, should we also mention that the person who is in the car with you right now is our friend Demetrius? I know you said Gerasimov, but we only know a Demetrius.
No, Raph, he said goose move. You said
move?
goose
Oh,
move.
that's right.
He said goose move. That was... That's how you describe
I've never seen anybody get so mad about their name getting incorrectly spoken multiple times.
Hey, if you guys ever want a massage, just have them spar with you.
I just like his laugh in the background. I
know. I love the fact that they're taking time from driving from Vegas back to LA to talk with us. Dimitri, thank you for taking time to drive so that we can talk with Christos. It's very nice of you.
Anytime.
All right. Now we're done with you. Shut up. Don't mention it anymore.
Now stay off our air, you dickhead. We're trying to have a conversation.
Christos, so you're excited about this. New Orleans, what is it that you plan to do after you get your big fight? You're in NOLA. What's the first thing you do to celebrate when you get out there?
Should we be warning him about NOLA?
No, I think he's aware.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Christos.
No, yeah. I'm excited actually to go to New Orleans. I've been hearing a lot of good things. Everyone keeps talking up about it. I'm staying pretty much downtown over there, and yeah, after the big fight, I'm staying there for another 3 days after. So I'm excited about that, and I'm gonna, eat a lot of food and drink a lot of alcohol.
Drink a lot of alcohol. Do you miss the alcohol? Is that something that you miss? I mean, you had bottle service for everybody yesterday, but is there a moment when everybody's celebrating and they're watching a fight that you do want it, or is there something else that you want more than alcohol?
A victory.
All right. Well, I guess that's how you know you're a fighter.
Yeah. No. I like to drink, but it doesn't define who I am. I can usually go without it. It's just after a victory and my friends are coming to New Orleans, it's always just more fun. I'm not gonna lie, I always have more fun when I drink, but I don't need to drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't, but I do roughly understand.
But yeah, no, it's easy to go without it. It's better, like waiting, because like I like to wait a long time, and after the fight, it just makes it that much better. I drink every day, then I'm just an alcoholic.
But aren't you like a cheap date at that point too?
Around.
After you've been drinking, aren't you just kind of like you take one drink and then you're just drunk because of how low percentage body fat you have going into a fight?
Oh yeah, always. It always takes me like 2 drinks. And I'm like, this is not going to be a good night.
I mean, I don't want to name names, but the last time I saw Dimitri after a fight, He had one beer and looked like he was on Dream Street. Like he looked like he was all tore up, and I was like, he just won, so congratulations to him. But damn,
That's funny.
Yeah, no, it gets like that. That's why it's even better because I don't have to put a lot of poison in my body. You know what I mean? Just take a couple
Yeah.
drinks and I'm good to go.
They get you the fizziest girl drink possible, and you're like, "This is the best." You shut up. I'm just.
This is fine.
Hey,
We're
guys.
doing good.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. And Christos, I'm definitely curious, especially given how well you're able to balance the training regimen. When you're trying to impose an MMA game plan and you're training such a compartmentalized aspect of the game, so you're either training jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or boxing, what is the part of your training where you feel like you're able to put all those moves together and really showcase what it's going to be like when the cage door slams?
Usually, well, we have our spar days on Friday, and what we try to do is whatever, like, the person you're going to fight, we try to have, like, whoever I'm going to spar with, try to act like that, you know, his game plan, from whatever footage we have of the guy. So on Fridays, I'll have, like, you know, I'll try to grab some wrestlers and just try to, like, take me down, and we'll just spar, and I'm going to implement my game plan in my sparring just like how I will in my fight. So if I'm going to, like, fight a wrestler, I'm going to have guys trying to shoot in on me, try to wrestle me, and I'm just going to be working on the sprawl, get off me, and work my striking, and just stuff like that, you know what I mean? Just training whatever you think the guy's going to do. That's, yeah, and stick to your game plan. But I'm not a big game plan person. I like to have an idea what he's going to do, but I just go out there and fight. I'm pretty well-rounded, so I can pretty much fight wherever the fight goes.
Okay, so you kind of take a situational awareness, but specifically when it comes to incorporating all styles of the game, that's typically Friday when you're doing a full sort of sparring session.
Yes.
Okay. That's fascinating. Do you ever put the gi on, just out of curiosity?
Rarely. I try to. I don't like it, to be honest. I hate
No.
bullying. But
If you're doing MMA, it makes almost no sense. That's why I'm always curious. That's the only reason I ask. It's like it's a very regionalized thing, and it's just like I'm always curious because some fighters seem like dependent upon it, but then you see the fighters like Damian Maia who won't ever grapple in the gi or without their gloves, meaning he always wants to do what he's going to be doing in the cage, which makes a ton of sense.
yeah, that's what I like to do. But there's a couple times I like to wear the gi because
It looks cool.
Like, well, no, just being claustrophobic. Like, you get claustrophobic in the gi and just getting used to, like, rolling in that heat and being smashed. And, you know, and I think it's a little better for your escape. Because if you can escape in the gi, and no gi would be a lot easier. So, I mean, I guess there's a couple benefits you can use. But to be honest, I'm not a big gi person. And if I do wear a gi, I don't grab their gi.
So wait. You know, Christos, you did mention that you train a little bit with Henner, right?
Yeah.
It was really, really interesting because we actually have Henner on the line. He just overheard some of the statements you were saying about gis, and he just felt compelled to say a few things. Do you mind talking with him for a second?
What's up?
Yeah.
Hey, what's
hold
up?
on,
It's very funny. I actually, don't worry, I'm already here. I've been here for a whole bunch of time. Let me ask you this question real quick, Christos. You said that you didn't like rolling in the gi, and you were very claustrophobic. But let me ask you this: are you not claustrophobic, or are you?
Oh my God, I am sometimes.
Oh, see, that's very good because yes and no, and also
non-committal.
There.
Yeah.
It is very difficult. Yes, Kevin. Here's the thing. I find that propaganda that you're spitting against Damien to be inflammatory, and also I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a breakdown for 40 minutes on the tips that we're making about wrestling. So don't worry, we're going to go.
Could you also ignore me on the way? Could you just completely ignore me and do it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not even listening to you right now.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go back.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys, for the time.
Yeah, sorry, Christos. We don't ever know when they're going to call in. So we just kind of leave the door open. And that's just how that works.
That's funny. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
well, I mean,
Pretty
I
good.
mean that's him calling, so it better be good.
Hold on. Give me a second right here. Christos,
Sorry, Ray.
your left jab is pretty good. That impression is a little bit better than that. Let's say that. If I could call your left jab pretty good, I think you can call my impressions pretty good.
Yeah, I said pretty good.
Okay.
I said pretty good. Good stuff. Good stuff.
That's very
good.
Yeah, they're I feel like the Gracies are actually some of the best guys in the world. Training with them, but yeah, no, the impression was good though. That was for a second I was like, wait a second, is for real or not?
No.
Oh well, it was very
That's how
for
we
real.
thrive.
Let's make sure that everybody
like,
knows that.
When
that
is
was
it not
actually
real?
Henner calling in.
Christos, talk us through your next few weeks. You're trying to make weight, which is kind of a tough thing, even with someone with your abs. There you go, dickhead. There you go. I threw them out for you. But talk to us about the process. What's it like? How do you maintain weight? What's your training like as you lead into the fight?
I've been doing this a long time now, so it's pretty easy for me actually. I have it down to a science. I just eat good, and I've been eating like that a long time, so it's not really hard for me. So like, and even like in Vegas, I have my cheat meals. I have my sweet potato fries sometimes. I just had some good food right before I hit the road, so it's not too hard. My weight always stays low, and basically I just keep it clean, keep it good, and I don't mess up, and I have good willpower. I think so. That's all it really takes. A lot of people they struggle because a lot of people don't eat. They like starve themselves really really bad, and then they splurge because they went like 4 or 5 days from barely eating any calories to like eating a bunch of calories, and then the body stores it, and they just do it wrong. There's a lot of people that don't know how to cut weight right, and they should really work on that.
How do you do it?
I'm like, like I said, I eat clean. I keep my calories good. I watch my carbs. I still eat carbs every day, but I don't.
Do you use a meal service, or do you just prepare it yourself?
The best spot in the world actually that helps me a lot. I go to Mashawi Grill. It's Mediterranean food, my favorite type of food. A lot of chicken, a lot of meat, hummus, salad, veggies, and they have rice too. And I eat my rice, I eat my hummus, I eat my veggies, and I eat my chicken. And it's really all like natural food. So as long as you know how to control your portions, that's all it really takes. You know what I mean? And then
That's pretty.
It's easy from there. I have this place, Mashawi. They sponsor me, and I pretty much eat there every single day. I'm in camp.
That's sick, man. And speaking of camp, one of your teammates, Vince, he's fighting I think a week now, right?
Yeah, 1 week from today.
Jesus, tell us a little bit about that because everybody loves Vince. There's not a person who I've met who has not enjoyed that human being. He's just a good person. He does charity work. Oh, you don't like Vince?
Nah. He's too nice.
He's too nice. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You had your opportunity to say who the worst was at Systems Trading Center, and you went with Dimitri.
Yeah, well, Vince is second.
Vince is second on that list. Well, tell us, since he's the worst, what we can expect from him next week.
Next week, you're gonna see I think a total domination. Vince is a beast, man, and it's crazy because I usually try to train with people my own weight. So whenever I train with Vince, it's always like once every other week, once a week, like when we actually get to roll. And he always surprises me. I feel like every time I roll with him, he's like that much better. And I'm like, God, this kid's catching up, man. Like, he's tough, man. He's a hard worker, great kid, and like you said, like everyone loves him. You know what I mean? He's a guy that you cannot not like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's pretty.
A lot of things going for him.
It's a pretty impossible thing. We're wishing him all the best, and that is, I believe, going down next week at the Club Nokia down in LA, downtown LA.
Yeah. Nokia Theater.
Yeah, so
MMA. He's fighting for the title. So.
Dude, that was so sick. I love seeing that he was fighting for the title. So we wish him all the best. And speaking of Vince, you and I believe Terrion actually collaborated for us, and we wanted to say thank you as part of our WWE BJJ week. The two of you guys, you and Terrion, put on quite a display of WWE BJJ moves. Where does that all come from for you?
I actually, the first thing I wanted to do in my life when I was like 5 years old, I wanted to be a WWF superstar. That was my first career choice. And I actually worked, like I used to have a trampoline and I used to wrestle a lot. So I kind of had a feel for it. And Carry-On had the same dream when he was younger. So like, we actually have I'm going to tag you guys in something on Facebook. We have a whole like 4-minute video of us doing some wrestling. So
I've seen it. It's pretty good considering that our other good friend, Doug Miller, who's also training to be a professional wrestler right now. The three of you put on quite the fucking show. And I loved, like, because, the thing is, at the time, all of you guys were doing MMA. So, you just kind of sit there and you think, oh, they'll probably do like a move or, kind of like do a stunt here. You guys had a whole match, like a triple threat match that you ended up staging and choreographing.
And you know what? We did that all in an hour. We just went with it and finished it in like an hour.
And the dumb part is that you're all fighters, but if I'm not recalling incorrectly, you are jumping out of the ring at certain points.
Yes, I'm a stunt guy. I can do like that. I do a backflip. You guys saw it, backflips, front flips. And like I said, I used to do backflips off my roof onto my brother onto the trampoline. You know what I mean? When I was younger. So.
God.
Yeah, I was that guy. And Doug is he's going with it still. You know what I mean? He's doing really well actually.
Doug's doing great when he's not almost dying the corner of a turnbuckle because somebody doesn't know how to throw him properly. No, Doug's good people. We like him here. And, for you guys, I just thought it was so impressive because you guys were doing these very nice jiu-jitsu moves with a WWE tint, if you would. But the weird part about yours in particular is you ended up doing a backflip for absolutely no reason at the end of yours, just to like remind us you're capable of that. And I looked at you and I said, all right, that's when somebody's too athletic. We don't need all that.
Yeah. Oh man, I was one crazy kid. Let's just put it that way.
It still looks like you're somewhat crazy. However, we can't thank you enough for doing that. We will be doing that again next year. Can we count on another set of contributions from our good friends at Systems next year?
Of course, yeah. Just let us know when to do it, and I'll do it. I'll do it within a couple hours. So I like doing that stuff. It's fun for me. I like wrestling still. It's fun. I don't get to train
Fantastic.
Enough, but yeah.
It'll be a good time. We'll make sure to choreograph something.
Maybe one if I make a little bigger name for myself in the UFC, I can appear on some WWE things. You know what I mean, like Ronda Rousey and some other guys.
Were you looking at Ronda and getting a little bit jealous? Like,
oh yeah.
All right, that's the dream.
Yeah. No, it's I think that's awesome. You know what I mean? And like, look at Brock Lesnar. He transitioned to UFC. Now you got CM Punk coming on.
Are you rooting for CM Punk?
Am I rooting? Yeah, actually, I am rooting for CM Punk. And a lot of people hate on him, but like, hey, he wants to fight. Let him fight. They can't get mad at it because I think everyone's mad because it was his first fight in the UFC. I don't know, but I think it's smart. It's business in the end. You know what I mean? And I'm excited. I'm actually really excited to see him fight.
Fair enough, man. And last question on this series. If you had a finishing move, I don't know that you've shown it. What would it be?
Finishing move. When I used to play the video games, it was always the spear. I called it the Dreamer because my name was the Nightmare. That was always like my old name, the Nightmare, and then my finishing move was called the Dreamer, and I was like, man, who was it? Edge. He had like the spear, the tackle. That was always my thing. You know what I mean?
That's what? I would have never guessed that for you. I thought you had some sort of ridiculous high flying sort of thing.
Yeah, you do feel like a flashy person.
Yeah, that's like one of them. I have the my backflip off the turnbuckle. It's the gainer, a gainer, what a gainer is.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar does it. He does like the super bar, but yeah, that's another one. It's like, yeah, a gainer off the top turnbuckle, but I didn't have a name for it. If I had a name for it now, it'd probably be the Spartan flip. I don't know.
The Spartan. Well, the thing is, we're just going to have to make sure to keep you safe so that you can continue fighting. Because the last thing we're going to want to tell somebody is, hey, Dana, really sorry.
Good news, bad news. Good news, bad news.
Sunset flip off of a turnbuckle. And
that's the bad news. That is the bad news. Yeah, I mean, good news is, what a professional. Like, even to that moment.
It looks good. As long as it's on film and it looks good, then we're all right.
Well, Christos, we appreciate you swinging by the podcast this evening, and we will be sure to follow you at UFC Fight Night 68 when you fight Chris Wade. We're stoked. Excuse me, when you beat Chris Wade. Is that better?
Thank you. Yes, yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, apologies. And frankly, I don't want you on my bad side, especially if Rap takes me back by Systems Training Center. If the first round was a vomit, I don't need to be getting hit in the head.
Easy first round. It should be
Hey,
added.
You guys got to make it back down, though, for real.
Well,
That will not
I'm
be
closer
hard.
to you. I'll drag Kevin when he gets back out here, but you guys will have plenty of time to come beat me up very, very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, Christos the Spartan Giagos. Soy español, pero es muy difícil porque no es el natalino lingües. Raph, do you know what that means?
Well, I would if it was actually said in Spanish instead of some sort of weird gibberish language that you're trying to say.
Fair point, but I think the message here is you have to be bilingual. And I'm saying that as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like you've taken May as a bilingual promotion month. Would you like to explain to the audience why I feel like you're being particularly bilingual this month?
All right, so here's what happened. Whenever I'm ordering a pay-per-view, they have the standard definition and they have the HD. I'm in no way in hell going to pay for an HD version of fights because A, we watch
They don't
a
shoot
million
it in
fights.
standard definition.
B,
they
who
don't
the
have that SD.
fuck needs to see fucking Andrei Arlovsky in HD? The answer is nobody. So, no thank you. So in doing that, I usually will do a search option that says, how would you like to purchase this? And I said, oh man, I want the standard definition. Well, there's two prices for standard definition.
One of them's cheaper than the other one. That's for damn
One
sure.
of them is in American dollars, and the other is apparently in pesos. So I may have ordered the telecast in Espanol. And I didn't know this until
Not
I
may
was
have.
watching...
Let's just not, like, might have ordered it in Espanol.
Mm-hmm. So it happened to be on my TV. I was live tweeting, and then I turn around, and that part when you're ready to hear Mike Goldberg start speaking,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
you just kind of hear, Benvenidos! And I go, oh no.
Bienvenidos!
I ordered it in Spanish. And I guess it wouldn't be a problem if I hadn't spent about a good 3 minutes saying, all right, make sure you don't order it in Spanish, Raph.
By the
And
way,
I'm pretty sure I did not.
Rap, immediately, someone, by the way, well, obviously, who is not used to buying UFC fights goes, can't he just change it? It's like, no, that's not an option.
Well,
are you
no,
fucking
I definitely
joking?
tried stopping the recording and going to the other channel, but my cable company has this weird problem where you, after they've said, are you sure you want to buy this? I go, yeah, it's the UFC. And yeah, they wouldn't let me switch
They
it. So I
were
tried.
not
I
interested.
definitely did try that. But then I realized I was stuck in it. So a few things I learned about ordering in Espanol, Kev.
Go on. Tell us all the things you learned.
Absolutely.
Raph.
Number
All
one,
of
the music's all different. It's all
it
mariachi
really?
music.
It's honestly like that was part. I genuinely thought you were just joking when you were tweeting out the. Raph called me seconds after, and to your credit, this is about character, because this is a pretty me thing to do. Like this is a Kevin moment, just if we're brandishing things. So the fact that you called and were like, Kevin, here's what I did, was amazing. I guess it was just the best.
I am nothing if not honest on this show. So I realized what it was. I realized what a terrible mistake I had made. I also realized that I wouldn't be able to hear the gold gems that are from Goldie and Joe. So I realized Kevin's in charge of that, because what if today they had said something so egregious that I just missed it?
Yeah. And you're also particularly on Goldberg's case, rightfully so. Mm-hmm. He says some weird shit, but you in particular have always been like, what did he just say? Like,
Yeah,
I wasn't listening. It was Goldberg. And you're like, no, he said something weird. He does. He usually does. Just if we're being honest.
So
but go on.
The music's different. Yeah, the music's different. For whatever reason, and I didn't understand this.
Bruno Springsteen.
What is that about?
I don't know. They add S's to things. Bruno.
They don't just yell out Bruce Springsteen in Spanish for no reason.
Bruno Springsteensies.
Oh, okay. So what they do afterwards, and I didn't know this, but apparently after every submission or knockout, they will just yell out, "Goal! So goal!" And then they start over again, and it really makes the broadcast a little bit longer.
I mean, good.
The three broadcasters who are on this show are terrified because I don't know why, but they have the worst CGI backdrop you've ever seen. They don't want to screw up. And occasionally, if you hear too much of the English when they do the interviews, because they do the interviews in English, so you have subtitles. But when Joe goes out there, they're saying things as fast as they can to go, "What are you doing? What are you saying? What
do you think he's saying? Like, how do you feel?
You know,
yeah.
Now the hard part for me is I don't speak great Spanish, but I understand it. So when people speak Spanish to me, I usually just respond in English. That's just the way my brain works, because America. And it's a little bit of an adjustment when you have the UFC in Espanol, because all you're thinking in the entire time is, wait, did they just talk shit about every non-brown fighter on this card?
People? Yeah, I forgot, but now I'm curious again. Yeah.
So the other thing that's kind of interesting about it is they also do this, in between the fights, because let's face it, the Vitor fight was not exactly long against Chris Weidman. So what do you think they were promoting, Kevin?
Energy drinks?
No.
Okay.
I know there was a lot of promotion for the McGregor fight.
Yeah. Oh. We should talk about that on an extra podcast. Like, we should talk about that on a separate podcast. Like,
sure.
Could you leave us the fuck alone about the McGregor-Aldo fight? Like, I've known they were fighting for what feels like 3 years now. Sorry.
That's fine, but they feel like it's going to
like,
well.
God
have to promote.
Damn it, stop promoting that fucking fight. Like, I'm with you, but
doesn't sound like it. No. Anyway, so what they do, I guess in all this point, is they were really, for whatever reason, super excited about Verdum versus Cain Velasquez.
What a great fight.
Talking about it. Every other word out of that telecast was Cain Velasquez. See? See. And
I would imagine the Hispanic podcast especially is like, we need to talk about Cain every second of the day.
That's exactly what they were doing.
If there are 2 seconds we don't mention Cain's name, fired.
Yeah, they were just so deprived because they have wanted that fight for so long. And I think the last time in November they were supposed to have a card out in Mexico City, Cain had to pull out. So, I get it. But yeah, it was a very different viewing experience. I'll say that.
Like, I get it. You're so much nicer than most people. Big takeaways, Raph, before we get into the shout outs. Anything you would like to advise people on before they purchase the
If you
Spanish
have
simulcast?
somebody in your household who can double check your work, doesn't hurt, because my wife showed back up and she was just as surprised as I was to
I would imagine.
Espanol. The look on her face was something
you don't normally buy the Spanish.
No, we don't normally buy the Spanish telecast. So here she comes in with food after getting off of work and looking at me like, okay, so do you want to explain what this is? And I was like, babe, we're watching it in Espanol.
I like
you
that
married
you owned it.
into this part of me, so I wanted the first pay-per-view we order as husband and wife will now be in Espanol. Welcome.
This is a big moment for me as like your credibility, like as a gentleman. You were very quickly like, I mean, I fucked up. You admitted it to everyone. You didn't hide it. I feel like I would have hidden it. I would have been like, I don't know what's going on, honey. Like, they put the whole thing in Spanish this time. What a joke, right? Like, I feel like that might be where I would have gone. So I'm impressed by your candor.
Well, the other thing is, I learned a lot about myself. And, yeah, so go me. I will say one of my favorite responses was I had put down, we were tweeting last night. So I said, one thing you learn about watching the UFC in Espanol, the announcers get even more excited than when Joe Rogan does when fighters go fast. And Juan Contreras sent us this note that said, ha, 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 you really did get the Spanish telecast, did you?
It's like, that wasn't a joke. It wasn't a thing I said.
Juan Contreras. See. So, yeah.
Good stuff, Rep. Let's do shout-outs.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I would have.
Can I just say it's my favorite thing you've done in a very long time? You don't ever make mistakes. It was so nice for you to call and be like, Kevin, I did something you're going to be very sympathetic for. It's like, what's that?
Pretty positive that Kevin, if he sees a call from me, because we do a lot of our stuff by text. But if
I
it's
was
like
terrified. Honestly, like I had a moment where I was like, literally when you called, like this is what you're getting to. But if you're asking what my gut reaction was, it was like Chris Weidman's out. Somebody was. I assumed it was like a big thing. I was like, well, this is gonna ruin my night. Like what? I figured you were gonna be like Vitor Belfort killed someone. Like, oh wait, that's still interesting. You're like, no, it was a squirrel. He's not gonna fight.
But I also started with saying, Kev, I might have fucked up. And Kev was like, I think he was thinking, like, did you delete all of the podcasts? I don't consider
what you did a fuck up in any way. A minor mistake, sure. Not like, doesn't even remotely reach my fuck up radar.
All right, well, shout outs as brought to you by the UFC in Espanol.
Donde vida?
There's only one UFC. I mean, Juan UFC.
This starts it outside the DMV area, out there in Chantilly, Virginia, where I'm doing some training. I'm finally back, Raph. I'm not sick anymore. I'm a little sick, but not a lot sick.
Yeah, sure.
I can play. I can do jiu-jitsu. I can do things. I'm headed to Hawaii in a few days. Can't wait to train some jiu-jitsu out there. I mostly just have jiu-jitsu and surfing scheduled. Just a big FYI. Been out there for 2 weeks. Like, don't have shit to do except work, jiu-jitsu, and surfing. Cannot wait. So excited. Taking my kawaii kimono. Of course. How else are you going to train in Hawaii? Just out of curiosity. It's probably hot. Taking the no-gi gear. Specifically, talking about a little of our unbelievable malware rash guards. Love those guys. Cannot wait to get out to Hawaii and do that stuff. Got a great training in Saturday. We're training no-gi tomorrow. Can't wait for that, by the way. It's no-gi season out there with the BJJ Finder crew, and that's going to do it for me, Rafa Esparza. So much fun talking to Joe. Cannot wait to train with him and toast him at a comedy event. Fuck that. Fuck it. Urgh. I'm fine. I'm doing fine.
But, you know, aren't you just kind of used to losing at this point?
Fuck off. Very much, first of all. No, I'm not used to it, but yes, I am used to it. There you go.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I want to go ahead and start off by thanking our good friend Bubba McDaniel, who did a wonderful recap with me, previewing the fights for UFC 187 at my job over covering the sports beat at firstslice.com. It was a very fun post. You know, it was actually cool just shooting the shit with Bubba, and I really appreciate it.
It was a fun post. Like, you're not even giving it the full weight. If you're not following Raf on the First Slice Sports, I mean, you're covering all the way from, you're obviously covering MMA in a particularly obsessive manner, and I love that about you, but you're also covering the NBA, you're covering football, you're covering pop culture. Like, go to First Slice, check out Rafa Esparza. You're going to be glad you did. He's doing everything he's always done, just now he's getting paid for it, and you should be watching it. You should be reading it.
Sure. Thank you very much, Kevin. It is a lot of fun.
You know what I'm going to talk about.
Good.
The Wet Hot American Summer post. Like, thank God, all is right in the world. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I really enjoyed putting that together with Bubba, and Bubba and I actually tied, if you can believe this, on our picking.
I can't believe it because you're both terrible, so it doesn't surprise me at all.
But didn't we pick better than you?
Well, that's neither here nor there, Rap.
Actually,
that's not what I measure as like whether or not you're better. Right? Oh, look at me, Mr. Big Shot. I predicted more than Kevin.
I mean, we predicted more than Joe as well.
I got 6 fights right. You got 8. Like, we're talking about the difference of fucking DC Cormier and whether or not Rumble could, like, breathe for 20 minutes on a given night.
Wait, was that for your point or against it? I'm not really sure.
It's unclear. I thought it was for it when we started. It just, like, didn't come out that way, if you're curious.
No, it didn't land. But, no, it was fun, and talking with Bubba was great. He ended up winning on tiebreakers. I must give him that. So I will be cutting a 30-second. Yeah, you know what? We tied. It's going to be a 15-second. It's going to be a 15-second talk of how he ended up being.
That should be the rule.
What's that?
That should be the rule.
Kind of. But see, the thing is, I'm a great moderator for Over Under Kevin. I feel I'm impartial. I feel I go on the side of justice. And in this case, you know, we tied, and it was a tiebreaker. So, yeah, all right. Plus, it'll fit on an Instagram. So, Bubba, congratulations. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing another one. I think
you're
the
not
people
at all
over at
worried
First
that it
Slice.
completely ruins your agency.
What do you mean? My agency?
You don't think like people aren't going to listen to you now that they find out you and Bubba tied?
If I
Maybe
was
you
worried
don't
about
have the
that,
balance.
we would have dropped Over Under Kevin segment 1. So
It's a very different rap.
I think I found that people will stick around even if you miss a couple here and there. So and thank you to all of you Verbal Tap listeners for sticking around. That's a nice promo for you guys. Let's go ahead and drop a nice promo for our good friend Adam Hunter. So as you may know, Adam Hunter, MMA Roasted.
From MMA Barbecue? Wait,
It's Roasted.
what was it?
No.
Roasted?
You don't want to play wits against the guy who
MMA
is-
Cupcake Pan. Here he is on his way. Ladies and gentlemen, look out.
Adam, just remember this is Kevin doing all of his nonsense, so not me. Direct your...
But guys, if you want to see more of what Adam does, go to MMABroilingPan.com. You can find all of his stuff, but you're not going to be disappointed. So check it out.
So anyway, Adam's working on this really cool new movie. It's kind of a cross between the Bad News Bears meets the Mighty Ducks. And it is a wrestling movie. So about, not, professional wrestling, about the real wrestling. He's actually been a really cool coach who's helped out with kids, and he's putting this together. He's got an Indiegogo campaign. I would highly recommend that you guys give him some money, because here's the thing. Adam does so much writing within the MMA community. He does so much good work, and I really would like to see him get funded on this project. So it's a movie called Kingpin. It's a dysfunctional coach. I wonder who plays that. Probably Adam, for some strange reason. Leading a team of misfits. He should, yes, definitely. You guys definitely, if you can't, contribute, help spread the word for our good friend. We always are highly entertained by everything he does. So please, you guys, please go help and endorse that project. So there's that. Also, shout out to my good friends over at Valley Martial Arts Center. Good training over this week. Man, what's really
Is there any
fun,
other kind of VMAC? It's only good training.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, I'm usually involved, so I feel that I ruin the training for others. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But a funny thing happened. Our instructor, Marcelo, gives us tons of repetition and drills. So he has to start this series of drills, and I'm midway through it, and he's like, "Huffa, 10 arm bars from mount." And I go, "Okay, no problem." And I start doing it. I'm like into
it cracks me up
number
when people
3.
call you Hoffa, by the way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always struggle with it. It's like, cracks me up. Sorry.
So I'm like in the middle of arm bar number 3 from mount, and he comes over and he goes, "Huffa." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Who do you think's gonna win, Vitor or Weidman?" And I go, "It's gonna be Weidman." And he just goes, "Oh, Hoffa." And he just laughs, and he goes, "All right, now get back to work." And I go, "Okay, yes, sir." Back to.
Can I just tell you, Andrew was also super on board the Vitor Belfort train.
Well,
Yeah. I get it. I like their spirit. I like their countryman angle. I appreciate it about that.
It's not just the countryman angle. It's also Marcelo. He actually trained with Vitor back in the day. So, I get it. He was telling me, he's like, I just like him. I don't know that he's got the tools to beat him, but, and he always enjoys hearing my 2 cents for whatever reason. So I appreciate that. And that was very nice. I wasn't expecting it in the middle of a drill, though. That was the first time he had done that, where I'm just in the middle of trying to get in a few reps. And it's just Huffa. And I go, "Yes, sir. Am I doing it wrong? Like, what is it?" It's just like, "Oh, no,
what?
it's fine."
Yeah, no, tell me. Yeah.
So lots
like
of fun there. Also want to give a big shout out to our good friends over at Breakdown Academy, John Evans, all of the good training that goes on down there. Good stuff, man. It's been a great week of training, and I also want to thank the good people over at First Slice for letting me do that cool article with Bubba this week. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to doing some more MMA and UFC coverage for you guys coming up real soon.
Props out to First Slice in general, because the content is great. So
awesome.
I appreciate that they're not. Yeah, great stuff. That's going to do it for us tonight here at Verbal Tap. We got Terminator coming out. I'm not going to tell you when. You better look it up yourself. We've got tons of fights, including Carlos Condit this weekend. Wait, did you mean the natural born killer? Yes, I did. Carlos Condit's back, and he's fighting someone that, frankly, should be fighting. So good news for Carlos Condit fans. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kevin Phillips. Thanks for listening.
Good night and a good fight.
Bow, bow. Bow, bow. Raph, give us your best Hispanic sign-up.
Adios.